Oh, I got a good one. New advantage idea. The instructions are the advantage. You have to use the paper to deliver a paper cut to your tribe mates, weakening them in the upcoming challenge. What could go wrong? Now watch as you accidentally hurt yourself enough to get medevaced. Ladies and gents, internet, my name is Peridiam, and in the spirit of our blood-seeking paper overlords, I think it's time we look at some survivor advantages that went horribly wrong. Because, as is often said, in order to know where we're going, we first need to know where we wish we hadn't been. And just for clarity's sake, I won't be including the hidden immunity idol in this video, even though they can count as advantages. I'm mostly looking at Season 30 Worlds Apart onward when the usual advantages began to first surface. And you know what? Speaking of Worlds Apart, that is where we're going to be headed first, to Season 30, when we saw our first ever extra vote pop up into the hands of the blue-collar mailman himself, Dan. The unmitigated gall I have to include Dan on this list, the true pioneer of advantage gameplay in Survivor. He went to rocks for this. It's true, Dan did beat Mike in the last ever Survivor auction as of this video, hopefully crossing our fingers, to win this extra vote advantage. And now that I think about it, is this what we had to sacrifice to get advantages? Was the auction what had to go? Was it worth it? Either way, Dan got an extra vote and treated it like Gollum treated the One Ring in Lord of the Rings. This was Dan's golden ticket to the Willy Wonka chocolate factory, and he was gonna make sure he put it to good use.
Holy... I couldn't have imagined this in my wildest dreams. Do you have any idea what this means to me?
So, come the final six, Dan is still in the game, and he still has this extra vote, and the main target was Mike, but Mike won immunity, so now Dan's alliance needed a backup target. I believe Dan's intention was to go to the final three with Rodney and Will, the most beloved final three in Survivor history, and because Mike was safe, this meant they would either have to vote out Carolyn or Sierra. Carolyn was the bigger threat, so that was the new plan. Dan, Rodney, Will, and Sierra all planned to vote for Carolyn. Carolyn was going to vote for Dan, but that's 4-1. And even if Mike joins Carolyn, that's just 4-2. Carolyn is toast, unless Carolyn has an idol. But she wouldn't have an idol, right? This is where the botched advantage plays begin in Survivor, because really, when you look at the tribe makeup, all Dan had to do was take his 2 votes and dump them on Sierra, creating a 3-2 vote. That way, in the event Carolyn has an idol, you can still re-vote and take out Sierra. But instead, Dan used his extra vote to put another vote on Carolyn, giving her 5 votes, which was never needed. Dan, stop. She's got enough votes. She's already dead. Stop it. Regardless, Dan misplays his extra vote, and it cost him. Carolyn plays her idol, and Dan was sent packing.
At the end of the day, I'm in a position of power because I have an advantage in this game, which is an extra vote at a tribal council.
Oh, you already know who I'm voting for.
Carolyn?
Yeah.
Carolyn?
Yeah.
Carolyn?
Yeah. We're saying you.
Dan can only beat those 2.
Right.
So, I mean, he's not taking you, and he's not taking Carolyn.
I'm running out of time to use my advantage, and I'd rather go down swinging than stand there and watch the 3rd strike go by me. Honest to God, I'm like a metronome, just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But I don't know what the right thing to do is.
I'm not taking a chance, Jeff. I'm not going home tonight.
13th person voted out, the 6th member of the jury. Dan, need to bring me your torch?
Good luck.
The second instance on this list was maybe, okay, perhaps less of an advantage being misplayed as it was misplacing trust. I'm talking about Steven in Season 31, Cambodia, Second Chance, at the final 9 when he had a vote steal advantage. So they were at the final 9 and he was in an alliance of 5 against 4 on the outs. But because he had a vote steal, he could make the number 6-3, which meant that the majority 6 votes could be split 3 and 3 to counter an idol. Steven strongly believed that Joe had an idol, which meant that when the votes were split 3 for Joe and 3 for Abby, at the very least, Abby would still get 3 votes. It didn't matter who Abby, Kelly, or Keith, the people on the bottom, the people on the outs, were voting for. And also, Joe couldn't vote because Steven stole his vote. Yeah, the numbers can't lie. but Spencer can. Spencer was the flaw in the plan, and this is where the advantage play goes horribly wrong for Steven. Because Steven does steal Joe's vote and uses it against him, but the plan also involved Spencer voting for Joe too, and Spencer decided to not do that. Instead, Spencer flipped his vote against Steven, meaning that instead of the vote being 3 votes for Joe and 3 for Abby and 3 for Steven, it became 2 votes for Joe, 3 votes for Abby, and 4 votes for Steven. Steven used his stolen vote to put 1 vote on Joe, 1 on Abby, whereas had he put both votes on Abby, this advantage would have saved him. In a twisted way, Steven unintentionally voted himself out. In the realm of bad advantage plays, this is not a hallmark bad one so much as it was placing trust in the wrong person. Steven's alliance had a plan that by all means should have checked out. It was just very shaky and easy to exploit. It's why splitting a vote can be really complicated.
Being able to steal someone's vote can shift the entire power dynamic of the game. Wow, I am in an insanely powerful position, unless I screw it up.
I think it makes sense to get rid of Fishback because he has an advantage.
And now, I have the numbers to split the votes reliably.
Either we lose Joe, or we lose Abby and Joe's idol.
It's a scary thing, adding one big giant unknown that could upend everything. So I can understand why it would be very threatening and put a giant target on me. I think it did.
Wow, Spencer, it's so complicated.
Insanely complicated. I mean, split votes, idols, mystery advantages. There are so many permutations of what could happen, and we're left in this limbo of just throwing out what ifs all over the place.
And whose vote are you going to steal?
I'm going to steal Joe's vote. And with Joe's vote, Joe will be voting for Joe. It's been 29 days coming, so I just want to take a second and marinate in it. Thank you.
3 votes Fishback, 3 votes Abby, 2 votes Joe, 1 vote left. 11th person voted out and the 5th member of our jury. Fishback, the charge has spoken. Thank you.
Season 34, Game Changers, had a dollop of questionable advantage plays, starting with JT not even bringing his idol to the tribal council he was getting blindsided at. After Debbie visited Cochran on a boat, lost at sea, and then unnecessarily used her extra vote to take out Ozzy. But one of the biggest moments of an advantage going horribly wrong for a player is when Sierra tried to bond with Sarah over having the legacy advantage, a special power that granted immunity at the final 6 for whomever had it in their possession. This was a passive advantage that could only be used twice in a season, at the merge or at the final 6. It functioned the same thing as an idol. It could be played before the votes were read to give that player safety. The unique part about the legacy advantage was that it could only be given to another player after the owner was voted out, hence the legacy part. And because they were now at the final 9, it had only one chance left to be used at the final 6. Sierra needed allies, and so she attempted to bond with Sarah by sharing this crucial detail. She had this advantage. By telling Sarah about it, perhaps this would gain Sarah's loyalty. And at first, it seemed to be working. But I think we all know what happened and where this is going. One of the most well-known advantage grabs, Sarah realized that she didn't need Sierra. And what's more, she could just vote Sierra out and get the legacy advantage for herself. As long as Sierra didn't know Sarah was taking her out, which she didn't, it would ensure Sarah would have safety at a guaranteed time later in the game. And that's the tricky part of the legacy advantage. It really doesn't behoove the owner to share its details with anyone before the round it can be used. Because again, unlike a regular idol, you can't just give this to somebody whenever they need it. You can only give it to somebody after you've been voted out. Even though I don't fault Sierra for trying to extend an olive branch, Sierra did do herself in by sharing that information, and Sarah went on to not only use the advantage, but win the season.
I mean, I'm about to throw a Hail Mary up here. Okay. And I maybe shouldn't. I found something on the first day. It's called the legacy advantage.
If Sierra goes, it is not all bad because Sierra has told me about this legacy advantage and that she would will it to me if she leaves. I don't want to vote her out, but this isn't about making friends. This is about winning $1 million.
Sierra, the charge has spoken.
This is the legacy advantage. I will be giving it to Sarah. She was honest with me and real with me out here and deserves to win this game.
As her name comes up, I look at her in shock, like, I can't believe you're going. And it worked.
But that's not all Sarah did. I've talked about this recently. The infamous Final 7 vote of Game Changers is one for the history books. On top of the legacy advantage, Sarah also had a vote steal. Sarah's vote steal advantage was thrown around like a hot potato at Jeff's Thanksgiving dinner table. Sarah had this vote steal and gave it to Cirie to gain Cirie's loyalty, to tangibly demonstrate that she was placing trust in Cirie. They wanted to work together for the vote, but they had different targets in mind, so this was the move that Sarah made to bring Cirie onto her side. And it went horribly wrong.
I need to get Ty comfortable enough to trust me. I maybe could tell Ty about the advantage, and I'm willing to use this to save him, that they trying to pull a fast one on him, but I don't know if he would believe that. Damn, could I pull that off?
At the following tribal council, Cirie wound up using Sarah's vote steal against her, though not exactly against her. Even though they were supposedly working on the same side and were basically gunning for the same people, Cirie wanted to take Sarah's vote away to convince Ty not to play an idol, and to then use Sarah's vote to vote Ty out. Here we go. Cirie was big braining again. It was convoluted, but it made sense. And even though Sarah didn't want to do that, Cirie was gonna make sure it was gonna happen come hell or high water by using Sarah's advantage against her. The bigger problem here is that while this went horribly wrong for Sarah, it got even worse for Cirie. There was a stipulation with the vote steal that said it can't be transferred to another player. In other words, it was still Sarah's advantage even though Cirie was holding it, which meant that after Sarah was about to have her own advantage used against her, the tables turned, like turntables do, and the script was flipped on Cirie. It was a whole lot of mess, and we had like 5 minutes in the episode to make sense of it, and man, oh man, did it go horribly wrong on so many levels.
So I would like to use this advantage, so I am going to steal Sarah's vote.
Well, actually, that's my advantage. It's non-transferable. It says it in the bottom.
This is non-transferable and cannot be stolen from you.
She can give it to you as a sign of trust, but she can't give it to you to use. So, Cirie, things are crazy now because your intention was revealed, but you don't have the power to make the move.
I haven't lied to you yet. I was going to save you because you wouldn't listen to me.
Sarah, don't buy.
I'm trying to tell you, you got to listen to me.
You know what, Jeff? I'm going to use my advantage.
14th person voted out, the 7th member of our jury. Michaela, need to bring me your torch?
I don't see how that made sense, Sarah, but do you, boo?
And while that's technically 5 times, let's add one more example to the bunch for fun. On season 38, Edge of Extinction, at the final 9 where Kelly Wentworth was blindsided in a 5-4 vote, we saw an advantage play that you might have forgotten about, but it sets up this little storyline that pays off 2 votes later. Aurora had an extra vote advantage and knew that she was in trouble. She thought it was going to be a 5-4 close vote between her and Kelly, which it was. Aurora didn't have the best relationship with Ron, but she needed Ron to vote her way, and so before Tribal Council, she gave Ron her extra vote to build a bridge with him. She knew Ron could vote her out and keep the extra vote for himself, but that would be a bold move to make. Who would ever do such a thing?
Right before we leave for Tribal, Aurora gives me her extra vote, and instantly my mind goes to a dark place. I could vote her out tonight by writing down her name. She's gone. I keep this vote for myself.
Well, despite Ron not having the best relationship with Aurora, he actually didn't vote her out here and did give her back the extra vote the following day. Ron strongly contemplated voting out Aurora to keep the advantage to himself, but decided to take the higher road. At the end of the day, Ron was a good guy, and despite having a villainous nature at times, wasn't gonna do someone that dirty. But Aurora would. Despite putting her life in Ron's hands with that advantage, despite Ron owning that advantage the moment she did that, when Ron gave back that extra vote, it would prove to be nothing but a thorn in his side. Because 2 votes later, at the final 7, Aurora was once again a target, and she feared if the vote were tied, because she used her extra vote to force 8 votes into play, she would not be able to use her extra vote on the revote. If you have an extra vote and you go to revote, you can vote twice, but not if you're one of the 2 players being voted for in the revote. So to work around this, Aurora gave her extra vote to Gavin this time so that he could use it in the event of a revote, and Gavin did use it. And what's more, he used it in accordance with Aurora to vote out Ron. The same advantage Ron held not but a few days prior was now being used against him to guarantee his demise. And while it wasn't necessary given that he was voted out 3-1, it still needs to be said, holding that extra vote could have been the power grab he would have needed for a time such as this.
If I give you my advantage and I get voted out, it's yours. I'd like if I come back in, then you give it back and it's ours for us.
I will hold it and hand it right back to you. Aurora gave me her extra vote to show trust. It's still hers, but I have it. If she had gone home tonight, I would get to use it and keep it.
Before tribal council, Aurora gave me her extra vote. And for a moment, I'm thinking, maybe I should actually keep the vote for myself. But then I'm thinking, I'd rather give it back to her because that's a better move for me. I'm trying to get Aurora to trust me completely. And I think if she feels that, she will do whatever I need her to do.
I have an extra vote. Oh, wow. This is the last time I can use it. But if you 100% believe in Gavin, yeah, I would give Gavin the extra vote. Because so here's what's happening. I'm giving you my extra vote.
Peace, bro.
13th person voted out and the 10th member of our jury. Ron, you need to bring me your torch. Ron, the tribe has spoken.
And that's it. Those are 5 times or 6 survivor advantages went horribly wrong, and our bloodthirsty paper overlords are pleased. Let me know how you feel about all of this. What is your take on all these moments? And given the current trajectory of the amount of paper and advantages that we're seeing on the show, I can only begin to imagine what advantages are going to come up next that are going to be misplayed. A huge thank you to my patrons for all your support, for not making my life choices feel so horribly wrong. I hope you all enjoyed the vid, and don't forget on your way out that Survivor is still about cutting people, not getting cut by paper, and I will see you in the next one. Once I wonder how old school Survivor would have managed all these rules. We all got beat by a bunch of rules.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.